Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Right, Keir Starmer, your turn. You seem like an alright bloke, but I'd like to warn you that the landscape to which you believe you are in power is unbelievably deceptive. Extremely deceptive. Has been extremely deceptive because I need to tell you something about politicians. Politicians in the world of hierarchical, something like that. In the world of hierarchy, the politicians are the newcomers. They have wandered in, they've put up their hands and they've said, a bit like what I'm doing. In fact, exactly like what I'm doing. There were kings that were sometimes good and sometimes bad, and the people got pissed off, a little bit like what we're now seeing with the politicians. The people got pissed off with this interchange between a good king and then a bad king and then a good king and then a bad king. And they said, look, a king sometimes lives for, or a queen, lives for a long time. The people, we need a way to change things on the ground before the monarch. We cannot wait until the monarch dies constantly. This stagnates us, and we need to bring forth positive change in the world. So we have come up, Your Majesty, with what is considered to be a democratic policy which we shall govern over the people on your behalf. And I think they actually did that at knife point. They basically captured the king, like if chess accepted, like the board game chess, if that accepted another dimension where a bunch of people could gang up and just capture the king, and then basically say, look, we're doing the king's work on his behalf with his blessing. And then because his life was in danger, he obviously continues to give his blessing. And then the to and froing of the two-party system is a divisive way for a group of the political class to maintain the same power that a king had. And this has the illusion, when misused, if it was correctly used, it would be true. But when it's misused, it maintains the illusion of this order. I believe the same thing actually exists right now with the Pope. The Pope is held captive in Vatican City. He's held captive by the structures around him. But what happens in a world where it's the politicians' turn for Magna Carta? What happens when a group of royalists, is that what we're called? Are we called royalists? Gather together in the shadows and come up with a plan for 80 years to expose the inevitability that the politicians will all enslave their very own people that they are claiming to be overseeing. Well, this is what happened. We're here. We're here today to announce to the world that a political cohort spread across the world has indeed tried to enslave the world and has indeed failed in a catastrophic nature that is unprecedented in human history. In a 4-year period of observation that was established by Queen Elizabeth to root out the tyrannical and controlling political class that, with its associations with large corporations and billionaires across the world, has attempted to kind of create a concentration camp of the mind, a digital concentration camp. A concentration camp of selection. Who is in the camp and who are the guards? Like the Harvard prison experiment, except it's not an experiment on their side. It's a structure imposed on humanity and activated by a vaccine, by a forced communion, to let the political class know exactly who is going to be their enemy and who is going to be their allies within their own constituency, within their own region. A big sorting gate. Now, the managerial mind loves this type of thing, and so you can see why it was irresistible for them to do. They had to know who was with them, and who was not with them. And as long as we've got enough that's with them, they'd read enough history books to read about kings and queens and knights and bishops and all these people that had been there before them. There was not a lot of speak of politicians. Politicians were rarely mentioned in the history books and rarely remembered. And this upset them, and they thought it was their time. My guess is that there was a game of soggy biscuit to decide who the rulers would be in lieu of sufficient royals emerging. So in lieu of sufficient royal, that why did you say that little bit quiet there, Shannon? I don't know, I guess we'll find out. It's your very structures, not yours. It's the structures that were, and the laws, initiated by the original politicians, one of them being a relative of mine, who did in fact create a world that did in fact allow us to prosper under and away and free from not always the evil deeds done by a king or queen, but perhaps just expand the territory and expand the knowledge set so that the obvious unseen things that needed to be done in our communities could get done. A wonderful institution. And when there is a balance between the crown and the politicians, then it works wonderfully. When the politicians misunderstood what the crown is, when they misunderstood what a monarchy is, and they crave the same power but misunderstand the hideous responsibility that these families carry, then we will have an attempt at some point to raise the masses against the monarchy. Now, I'm sure maybe you're down on step 31 or something like that. You're like, right, we're at 31. We've got all the governments across the world, except Trudeau, but he's just resigned. And this is all part of our plan because the next bloke is sitting there waiting. And we're going to slowly but surely just unwheel this thing, and we've done it. Yes. All it takes now is a hideous like a hideously designed revelation about the current sitting king. And the world is yours, Keir. The world belongs to Keir Starmer, Anthony Albanese, Joe Biden, and a big list of socialist leaders, politicians, socialist politicians. On paper, yes, I would agree. On paper, I would agree that you have gone through all the necessary steps to initiate a global socialist coup. Well done. I can see why you've elevated through our school systems, through our university systems, provided in history by politicians just like you. I can see why you've risen to the very top as Prime Minister of the UK, with all of that fortitude and all of that dedication to such a brilliantly planned scheme. And now you find yourself sitting exactly where that king, and I wish I could remember his name, the king that had the knives at his throat, that was forced to sign the paperwork of Magna Carta, which birthed the institution that you are currently head of. And so now you have counterintuitively flipped, because King Charles is the King of England. Currently the King of England. But this interconnected web of politicians stretches far wider than England. You've built an empire, haven't you, boys? Well done. I guess, yeah, statistically, right, we've got this big China, we've got CCP, we're all kind of aligned with this. How about we do like China Light, and we get together with all the other guys, and we just fucking do this, and we do this, and then we do this, right? And then we've got the socialist empire of the socialist combined forces of the pre-existing Commonwealth, of the pre-existing British Empire. And then I guess that makes you king, mate. I guess that makes you and Albo king. Albo's the king of Australia and you're the king of England. Well, thanks to the fine dedication of 80 years worth of combined preparation, we have pre-prepared a new Magna Carta, which is on your desk, or on your, I suppose if you put your phone on your desk and you watch this, it's on your desk right now. And you can read it or listen to it. You can't read it. You'd have to transcribe it. You'd have to get IO to transcribe it when you do this. And I guess we're getting you to sign now a declaration of this attempt and a complete surrender. I'm guessing at this stage this doesn't come as a shock to you. If it does come as a shock to you, then let me explain a few things. All of the misdeeds that you have done, the combined lot of you have done, in order to get to this fictitious paper lordship, paper crown. You've built one of those little paper crowns, like in a popper in Christmas, when you crack it and you get the little joke and you get the little toy sometimes. Sometimes the really cheap ones don't have toys, but then usually what they will have is a paper crown, and that's what you've got on right now. You've all built yourself a paper crown. And I can't wait to see, like if AI could manifest me now a picture of Trudeau, Keir Starmer and Albanese all sitting around a Christmas table with the poppers cracked on the thing and their little paper crowns on, then we could see like a thing of like me walking in and going like, hey, and you all going like looking shocked, like, oh shit. Like when that fucking thing happened with the photo op in somewhere with Trudeau and something landed, the military landed, and then I think they were in France. It was a French problem as well, because the French fucked this up as well, because of course they did. Of course the French were a fucking part of this. And the thing landed and you're all freaked out. That was a preparation. That was like foreshadowing of what's happening now, where you're all like, oh shit. And then I walk in and then I like hand you the tablet and like basically, and then you're all shocked. There's a puddle underneath of all of you, and then you sign the declaration of admission and surrender of an attempted global coup against your king. The one thing you're not supposed to, you work for, like, it's like, you know, when you go in, because I think that's it. You're like, right, we've done it. Look, we're in power. All we need to do now is this. But you work for the king. You all do. So as soon as you're straight outside of that, then you're in direct conflict with your job description that you swear an oath to do. All of you are. And so then you're void. And then, because we have 4 years worth of like exceptional amounts of evidence and atrocities committed in order to get this, because you've rushed it. You've rushed it near the end. You rushed the gate. When people rush the gate, ask what, you know, go and read a book about World War II. What Hitler did when he rushed the gate. He fucked everything up. And there was this story I heard about the other day where they were going to blow up Paris at the end. And he was like, no, I'm dying, I'm not doing it, no, I'm going to blow up Paris. And then some bloke's like, back off, cunt. You're lost. We're not blowing up Paris. They make good poison. And so, what did you miss? Well, you missed tons of shit. You missed 80 years of preparation. You missed like some type of weird fucking hide and seek game of all these fucking bloodlines and royals. And I'm thinking there's some type of soon to be announcement of an emergent royal order that has been kept in the shadows and protected in the dark whilst being attacked. All cheered on and celebrated by this global socialist conspiracy empire. And so yeah, it's a weird day. And this is why I love England. Because Australia's kind of got another strategy. I'll tell you that in a minute. But England's reaction is thousands of years old in this moment. England has done this thousands of times. They know what's going to happen. And because Charles is sitting on the throne now, because he's been coronated, because he's one of the most capable kings in history, so subtly powerful and so subtly capable, and he doesn't lord it over the entire country. He has the humility of close to priesthood, because that is close to his role. He's not a priest. He's not a monk. But his dedication to his position and to his country and to the expanded territory which he oversees is unparalleled in history. And so because of that, based on purely on its own, this is separate from the masses of royalists, dedicated royalists, that have worked tirelessly to gather the evidence and to expose the true ferocity that this communist socialist conglomerate has attempted, myself being one of them. But free from that, say I and people like me did not exist, I believe Charles could hold England together purely on his own merit in this moment and re-establish from the beginnings a new order of political class and replace the existing traitorous individuals with a new, younger cohort that have actually adapted to the current environment and have not stayed in the past and cheated a game that was invented to exactly prevent a king doing what you've done now, what you've all done now. So I believe Charles could do that on his own in England. Now, Australia actually exists like that, minus the king. Almost. We just need the whisper of the king. Australia has kept in order before all of your mess that your socialist parties have made, just by the whisper of the king, by the hope of the king, by the tiny little spark inside a man's heart that understands a monarchy, that understands a king or a queen, that respects it, because it is a naturally occurring phenomenon in humanity. Whereas politicians are a man-made invention. Now, like all man-made inventions, they have positives and they have negatives. We are now, in our Western world, smack bang in the middle of the largest negative cycle of the political class that has been recorded. And we've got you all right where we want you, in front of the cameras, on the podiums, in power, with the eyes of the world or your locations permanently fixed to you. That's exactly where you would put criminals if you wished for them to keep being criminals in order to completely expose their hideous game. So we've got you all there, and you've missed the boat. Anyone who didn't miss the boat, anyone who saw the writing on the wall, is long gone. And well done, boys. Well done. Because like any profession, it requires a little bit of good and a little bit of evil to be successful and to be effective. And so we're not going to dig back through the past politicians to expose the foundations. We're just going to deal with the current patsies that have been placed there to show. Basically, you're standing in for a system that unfortunately is proven to have had a long-lasting degrading effect on our societies. And the worst part of all, when you open up a history book and you look, and there has been a king, a tyrannical, evil king, as people would say, a bad king, which Charles is the complete opposite of. Elizabeth was the complete opposite of. England did not deserve those two individuals. England does not deserve William. It does not deserve Catherine. It does not deserve the Windsors at all with the way it is behaving. And that makes their feats even more magnificent, because it has gotten to a point where it's not even respected by a large portion of England. Where you have the most capable, the most dedicated people keeping an eye out on the entire place to make sure it doesn't degrade into hell, being disrespected to the point of almost obfuscation, to the point that in a lot of English people's minds, the king is powerless. And that is what is exposing the wonderful deeds that have actually been done by that family. Under attack by you. So what have you missed? Well, you've missed the fact that time exists. I think all this power of now, this Eckhart Tolle lifestyle, this manifestation, power of positivity, the secret, all these things, I guess you just think that we live now. We live right in the moment. But you don't live in the moment. You don't work in the moment. You work in a structure that is hundreds and hundreds of years old. And so there are many projects that structure historically has attempted. Some have failed, some have succeeded, some are still in their growth stages. Like sending out a convoy of drones, if we want to think of 2025 methodology, of colonizing drones. Imagine we discovered right now a new world, a new section of land similar to, say, America or Australia back all those years ago. In this day and age, and we send out, like Elon Musk wants to send things to Mars, we want to colonize Mars, right? Well, imagine we missed a bit of land somewhere in the ocean, which could possibly have happened, and we find it, and then we send some and we're going to do it in 2025. We're probably going to send there with drones and all the stuff that we do on Mars, aren't we? Right. Now, think about when we send things far out in space. Sometimes they take 20 years. Sometimes they take 100 years. Sometimes they take 180 years, which is how long this little colony fucking drone descendant has been working tirelessly for the United Kingdom. His family has been working tirelessly for the United Kingdom, for Great Britain, for the British Empire, and has been now exposed, thanks to the wonders of technology and the innovation of technological social media public testimony, which is what this is. I've been sitting here doing public testimony of abuse, torture, theft, defamation, sabotage, terrorism, a big list now of things committed by Australian citizens, some of them, and the most atrocious of which being those in charge of the region. In fact, the Prime Minister himself, my state Premier himself and his party, all actively committing these atrocities while public testimony is going on, unbroken to its structure of initiation during the whole thing. A delegate on behalf of the Crown, as you are, working actually towards the good of my region, Australia, and the good of the United Kingdom, in defence against a political class and kept in the shadows so that that political class can seem superior based on legislation put forward by that political class. Far worse than any king has done in a very, very long time. And the people know it. The people feel it. The people are ready for that revelation. And so what happens now? Why immediately after fighting for Donald Trump for 4 years did I put my hand over to Kamala Harris and give her some suggestions? Well, one, because I want a giant novelty check and I want to be paid for my consulting. 2, because I think she's hot and I'd like to have a little cuddle with her, and perhaps, who knows from there. And 3, because the operational and morally focused structure of a democracy is a wonderful thing, as long as we expose its potential for misuse. And so I guess you're now sitting in my historic homeland behind my gun sights, and I've got you just straight there, like a sniper from a colony you've more than likely long forgotten about. Now, the Irish are the masters of this, aren't we? Because I'm Irish as well. We're the masters of sailing out across the world and crying poor and help me, I need some work when you're here and there, but then you're Irish. And then we whinge about being colonised by the English. It's like the ultimate avoidance strategy of all time. It's a symbiotic relationship that only because of the charisma and charm of the Irish has been kept as an option. Yes, we'll let you pretend that you're not doing this as long as we don't get to tensions where we're all blowing each other up. And we've had our up days and we've had our bad days. But what has been kept in the dark is the English version of this. Because English people are quite reserved. English people just dedicated and work in the background, and we sort out some things to keep all, and I guess we will commute to these processes in time immemorial to continue on the wonderful production of such beautiful structures to encompass and to watch over and supply sufficient material, systemic and operational products, services and structures for the citizenry of the England, Great Britain to thrive under these conditions, all that kind of thing, right? It's boring, it's methodical, it's not snappy Hollywood, it's definitely not TikTok. Winston Churchill would not have been a TikTok star. And neither are you. So when someone emerges that possesses both the dedication, the self-sacrifice, the foresight that all English achievements have been built with, and then also can parade around in the Hollywood-esque fairground or circus tent of public entertainment. Then we'll see that these structures that each politician has around them, each politician, now currently, how many staff does each Premier of the state have underneath him? How many staff does the Prime Minister have underneath him? All paid for by the Australian or the United Kingdom people, the citizenry. All now focused to combat emergent individuals that possess the entire liturgy of the skill set required to enact change because of our technological advancements. A very large disruption to human structures as we know it, to our established structures. And were they prospered? Were they invited in? Were they recommended positions within our hierarchy to go to so that their effective and outrageous dedication to the citizenry could be elevated and could be assisted for the betterment of all? No. They had their children stolen, had their businesses destroyed, they were tortured in solitary confinement, they were imprisoned, this is in my case just personally, and they were ignored. And what structure did this? Well, the digital concentration camp that this global cohort of socialist political class individuals established was the desired place of choice, location of choice, to keep all these effective, observant, adaptive individuals in confinement. I'm not forced to wear striped pajamas. I wasn't forced to shave my head. I shaved it all those years ago now to show, to expose what was going on. I'm not surrounded by barbed wire. I have no guards overseeing me. And I'm not surrounded by individuals of my selected divisional class. I'm not forced to slap a symbol on my arm to expose myself because you've already done such a good job at doing that everybody knows. That no one will talk to me, communicate me. Only the very brave will even publicly display their support of me under these conditions. And so I walk the prison wherever I walk. I walk the prison camp. I walk the work camp. Armin Man Frei is written on every wall, above every door, to which the threshold below I step over to enter. You've created a world where discrimination is not removed from polite society. You've projected a discriminatory structure onto the world and then enforced your citizenry to maintain it. And the way they maintain it is by ignoring any screams. Even really focused screams using all aspects of the English language and presenting daily with a very presentable figure, such as myself. Even still, with all of these attributes that I possess, this ostracism, this discrimination, this incarceration stands firm in the hearts and in the minds of the individuals that you have coerced to maintain it. I think Orwell, right now, would be getting that he'd be getting that imposter syndrome. He'd be like, well, I wrote some things. I really did. But what has actually been committed makes anything that I dreamed up seem like a children's birthday party. in comparison to the actual situation of the world in 2025 on this dawn of this revelation. All of the things I just said, in reality, actually just fall back to a coin toss in the minds of those who committed it. A coin toss between their own country, their own constituency, their own structure, and the emergent Communist Party of China. That was the bet. Now they'll explain it by saying, well, China's emergent thing, there was a certainty that this would do. We had to change our systems to better reflect a harmonious relationship with the Communist Chinese Party. In order to guarantee the safety of all our citizens, we did have to establish this type of censorship, confinement, web in order to appease our communist overlords. They probably wouldn't say the overlords bit. They would say our communist neighbours to which we share a wonderful relationship going forth into the future. We will thrive in these conditions as long as we do exactly as they're fucking told. When in reality, you're at a roulette table and you've bet against your very own country, collectively and provably, in a alignment, a coalition globally of like-minded, cowardice, treasonous individuals. You have initiated a coup against your people, and you have aligned with our enemies for personal gain. For personal gain, nothing to do with security, nothing to do with fortitude or foresight into the future or preparations for the future or that, just personal gain. How many conversations did I personally, in my duty and my operation to re-establish the British Empire, how many conversations did I have to have with the CCP in order to negotiate these terms, the terms that I am bringing in? I think it's about 5. I did 5 really well thought out pieces of something or other, of artistic, beautiful, spiritual example of how we can still cooperate as long as they respect our historical structures. My wish is that the Chinese people rediscover their structures, and perhaps in a distributed revolution somewhere in the future, they will be exactly where we are right now. And what I found wonderful about the Communist Chinese Party is that this by them is known. The Chinese Communist Party is in alignment with the establishment of its new monarchy somewhere in the future. And that is the great secret that is unknown by the world. The Chinese Communist Party are royalists. They're monarchists. And it is the very language barrier, the cultural divide, that leaves that region, as always, isolated and independent, and as hard to crack into as the hardest of hard walnuts that has veiled the masses of the Western world from knowing this truth. They're doing a job. The Chinese Communist Party is doing a job to defend itself against misdeeds committed by the previous British Empire in days gone by that were horrific, and we did commit things that were horrific. And there has been some retaliation, but overall, the Chinese Communist Party wishes to restabilise its region and then eventually re-establish its monarchy back to historical roots, and rather than one emperor, they have some type of distributed, empirical, self-interested concept somewhere on their timeline, which is far different than ours. So the negotiations were quite simple. The false negotiations being projected by this socialist political class is the exact superiority complex, the exact superiority thinking, but not from a king or a ruler, but from the cohort of socialistly, globally interconnected revolutionaries, I suppose you guys would call yourselves. The majority of the rhetoric, anti-China rhetoric, anti-CCP rhetoric going on in the Western world was intended to elevate this cohort's status above all individuals in the world. And why? Well, for ultimate power. Ultimate Western superiority, colonizer, empirical power. But you've lied about everyone. You've been exposed in 360 degrees. You have hundreds of hours of public testimony, 360-degree public testimony in an interconnected and recorded digital world that you believed you were in control of, and that it was being wheeled out, and that you knocking on doors and threatening individuals and such had done enough work for you to completely capture technologies that you didn't build or innovate, so you could rise to the top and put on your crowns. The socialist overlords of the ruins of the British Empire. But it failed because we prepared for 80 years, because we knew you were going to do it. We prepared in the dark. We prepared our children in hideous, extreme ways. Prepared them to be able to endure extreme circumstances that elevate their actual personhood into close to the supernatural. But of course, they are not. They are humans that have been tortured publicly and continued on. They are humans that have been pushed to the edges of sanity and held tight, held fast in that resolve, knowing that God's will be done, that the monarchy will be that the monarchy will stand, that the monarchy will endure this attempt. So on this day today, the 14th, I had to check it, January 2025. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, of England, has a decision to make. There is a threat at the gates, but not at the gates of the palace, any of them. At the gates of Parliament. An international cohort of Englishmen spread out across the world, of loyalist, royalist, dedicated Englishmen. The arrow has been shot with the letter into 10 Downing Street's door. The words on it, unless there is a complete surrender and a re-establishment, a new establishment, a completely new cohort of government established in protection of Great Britain and the Commonwealth, there will be an invasion on English soil. The trumpets will ring in every state of every colony of the previous British Empire to load up our ships, big and small, to abandon our colonies, and to return home to conquer this invading socialist political class that sits in the buildings our ancestors built. And as soon as we're finished with you, as soon as we've severed the tie, the head of Medusa, we will return to our colonised homeland and we will deal with the lower down hierarchy of your socialist global structure. The Pope said it 2 days ago. It's time to begin again. You are ill prepared for the future. Your attempt has left a taste in every Englishman's mouth of blood from your constant bashing and torture. So an ultimate gesture of surrender is required to calm these hostilities before there is untold death and destruction. A lot of the I can hear over there that there's foreigners in England, right? Now, when they become English, nobody has a problem. When they strip down English culture, the bells start ringing. And I assume what you wish is that there is some type of retaliatory, racist, white supremacist, right-wing attempt on individuals that you can then hold up as pariahs and victims of this scourge of fucking racist ideology. No, it's you. It's you. In my country, it's Albanese, it's my state premier, another white man, another rich white man, far richer than I. Who's doing this? You're the invader. You've invaded ideologically into the minds. You've created the landscape of fear to which these foreign individuals feel threatened by. You've perpetuated the division, the same in my land. You've perpetuated the corruption, the degradation of the ideals that made Britain wonderful, that made Britain great. And you've destroyed in every person across the world. You've contributed to the destruction of our legacy. And perhaps without these stone monuments and statues and parks and trees and wonderful colonies such as I live in myself is testament to the achievements of the British Empire. But you wish to degrade that and elevate yourself, your new cohort, to the pinnacle without doing any work, simply by tearing down. You are the bearded men in caves. You are domestic terrorists, holding hands as you skydive through the perceived reality of all the citizens of the world. Like on Point Break, a bunch of bank robbers on their last skydive before inevitably running and hiding with their loot. I don't know you personally. I've barely even looked at it. You've only been there for 5 minutes. I'm sorry that this position lands in your lap. But I assume you're prepared. And actually now I assume that you've been put there to be the face of this surrender. That you've infiltrated the coup. To be the announcer of their defeat. Inside your chest actually lies a royalist, a true dedicated Englishman in service of the crown of England and, as a far afterthought, the Commonwealth. So what does this whole long monologue of gobbledygook end up with? It ends up with two white men that have conspired to expose a coup, having a polite discussion that has explored historical relations of England, the Commonwealth of Great Britain. We've discussed archery a little bit. And we've discussed exactly how best to peacefully negotiate this surrender in the interest of all Englishmen, of all citizens of the Commonwealth. Because that's what English people do. There's some under our breath mumbling, there's a lot of words that you don't understand, there's some heavy breathing, there's some intense stares, there's some momentary silence that elevates the tensions in the room. There is a silence, there is an acceptance, and then there is a completion. And the majority of people never knew what happened, have no idea. It's that very thing that has been attacked in English people across the world. We are respected. We are respected purely so that behind the scenes we can be attacked. Oh, they're this, they want this, they control everything, this is colonialism, this is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, white spirit, whatever the fuck, da-da-da-da-da, colonial slavery, all these things. English people maintain order globally, and we do it in the most beautiful, peaceful, dedicated way there is. We are the babysitters club of world politics. We have established colonies that they don't inflict, well, they tried to, under this socialist thing, yes, they did try to build. The socialists basically tried to build exactly what everyone has been saying the English people have been doing, while tearing down our historical reputation to do it. They're like, oh, they're the ones who started it. English, they're this colony, da 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 da. Colonisation looks like a cricket game. Yeah, a little corner shop, a post office. Yes, there is a prison because people are naughty. You know what I mean? And then a whole bunch of people got farms. Prisoners got farms. The families still hold the farms now. And now the socialists in my country are trying to steal the farms off the families of ex-convicts while saying that this colonisation, it's quite easy to tear apart. And in my country, my state, my region almost, when I hear anecdotal stories about the Labor Party handing bags of cash to Aboriginal people for photo ops and for unofficial videos with no contractual agreements, no intellectual property agreements, just bags of cash to Aboriginal people to come and take a photo with our boat on a train. It wasn't hard. .360-degree capture. Only used to do this, while they tried to initiate the same and have obfuscated their responsibilities by leaving people in isolation chambers, digitally enforced and digitally created. It's atrocious. I cannot wait for how the filmmakers of the future actually represent this. How the historians write it down, because the capacity for human beings to create structures that enslave their peers has blown my mind. There's something so dystopian about how this is actually so dystopian, and yet so there's so much fumbling. There's so much, it's so flawed, but then continued. And so at every point I had the option, I'm like, well, should I attack this thing physically? Should I destruct this thing? And I'm sure some people are actually in the process of plotting such things, but I did it in this way. And that has shown me that, the depths of how the incompetency. As soon as I accused the defence minister, I can't remember his name, of disrespect to our flag on Anzac Day a few years ago, displaying it on the ground and parading around like he's some type of, whatever. So to be in direct conflict with that party, and then to be able to walk up to that individual and ask him what the time was, I was like, they're just using social media tools. They're existing purely on perception, because that's their only skill set. But they're then trying to conquer they're trying to conquer using Facebook likes. They're trying to conquer And they're only holding power based on public perception of peaceful protest displayed only in the interim. And this is the point. So it was like peaceful protest. It got elevated. The more I elevated, they just basically put it in the thing of he's lost the plot. He's raising his voice. He's doing these things. He's being aggressive. Of course, they're being aggressive because of being attacked. And then you've stood on that as your entire strategy. And this is like a fractal. So a repeating cycle. This is that large system is doing that, and every individual falling under that structure is doing the same thing. And it's the only place you go to. It's literally, he's raising his voice, he's crazy. He's going to be arrested and put in jail. This is the confidence that this totalitarian coup attempt has left in the citizenry. It's like, now you can be a complete cowardly, terrible individual, and as long as you just stay quiet and pretend you're amazing and frustrate the enemy into exposure of our waiting legal system, waiting to capture anyone who strays from the established presentation of like polite order. So these politicians being polite and doing these things, keep their manners and speak blah, 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 while the dark men in the shadows do their dirty work, and they establish prison camps in our neighbourhoods and in our minds. And it all just there's no structure, there's no defence, there's nothing. There will be nothing. There is nothing you can do. It's the Wizard of Oz, funnily enough. I'm in Oz. Played out across the world. And you're that little man, and one of quite a few. And the amazing vision I see in the very near future of Charles re-establishing a new parliament in the ruins that were created by the previous. The 3 minutes or so which Charles will hold ultimate power of the Commonwealth again will be a marvel to watch, will be the example for the world of what humility and duty and honour and commitment actually looks like. The job of sitting in the very place that your invaders are trying to destroy, knowing your head is on that block, on their block, knowing that they are actually your employees, knowing that this mutiny, although incompetent, always has the potential to succeed. And then sitting there and looking just like a dapper, polite gentleman. I don't know how he does that. But I've never been to England. I don't understand it. But I am English. And so, yeah, I can't wait to see the 3 minutes or so. Maybe he'll be able to practice a little bit and get it down to 3 minutes and 33 seconds, just to show off, in which he is bestowed by your surrender with ultimate power, and then re-establishes a new parliament. You all shake hands, and that echoes around the world, and the English reputation is restored. Not as the overlords or masters of the universe, but as dedicated, intelligent, beautiful gentlemen. That despite all words against them, despite all conspiracy against their personalities, against their the very nature of humanness. That's the recent one. Thanks, David Icke, for telling everyone that the royal family are lizards. Lizards. Reptilians. All these things. Well, just sit there. Well, no, he's just a very intelligent, very dedicated, very beautiful-hearted soul. That is what a gentleman is. It's just that weak, cowardly individuals will always tear someone like that down because they cannot recover from the jealousy and the inadequacy they feel, that they do not possess the same fortitude to display such a selfless example.